Imagine you're sitting in a car in America, and up next to you pulls a car. You turn your head, and it's the Chinese Special Police, the Jing. These are the SWAT team, counter-terrorist, armed police. What would you think? Something that's been happening a lot recently is, of course, mostly due to this Hong Kong thing going on. There's been a lot of support being shown for the pro-democracy Hong Kong protesters, right? By a lot of the Chinese diaspora. Remember, I'm not talking about mainland Chinese here. I'm talking about all Chinese. So I'm talking about people from Taiwan, people from Hong Kong, people from Singapore, people from any, place that you can think of that has a large Chinese community that's ended up in the States or ended up in Australia or ended up in New Zealand or wherever, you name it, they're there. So you'll get a lot of people that sympathize with the pro-democracy Hong Kong protesters. And so they organize rallies, or they go voice their opinions, or they kind of have little church meetings or whatever it is that they do in support of the Hong Kong people and the Chinese nationalists that are living abroad that have just gotten here, or even by, and I'm not going to say it is this, but most probably directed from Beijing through various organs of their intelligence networks in America, things like the Confucius Institute, and various other sham organizations that are here to promote culture, which are actually just a surveillance unit for the CCP. They will then try to put a stop to this. They want to discourage people from showing support for pro-democracy, because in their eyes, there's one China only. There is one opinion that you're allowed to have, and one opinion only. So what do? Well, of course, they start telling their own citizens to dox and spy on anyone who's taking part in any kind of pro-democracy movement, or anyone who speaks out against the CCP. And what you'll see is you'll see articles coming out of the Chinese national TV, the CCTV, China Central Television, that whole news group, actual messages coming out saying, take photos of people and film people that are doing this so that we can find out who they are, basically. And on top of that, recently, not only in Australia, there's a case in Australia I'll talk about in a minute, but just the other day, in fact, might have even been yesterday, the California Highway Patrol arrested a guy driving around in an Audi, which had been converted to look exactly like a Terchan, which is like a specialty police vehicle. So somebody had taken their car, put on the decals and the Chinese writing that says special police. It's basically like a counter-terrorism SWAT type thing, right? And he's driving around Irvine, which I'm sure anyone who knows anything about California knows that it's a majority Chinese area. There are areas all over California that may as well be China, because when you go in there, the signs are all in Chinese. There are only Chinese people. You won't really see anyone else around there. There's Chinese restaurants, supermarkets. I love to explore these kind of places, because when I miss China, I just go to one of those places and I'm back in China, basically, except for maybe the pollution. Anyway, thing is, you got this guy driving around in these areas, basically intimidating everybody. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say that this particular guy, although it's not just one, there were more than one guy reported, I'm going to say that maybe he's just a big fanboy of the police and he thinks it's cool to put police stickers on his car. That is a possibility, right? But it's a very slim possibility, considering that he even put a fake official license plate on the front of his car, which is illegal in California. But he put a fake license plate which says that he's part of this counterterrorism stuff. So it looks very legitimate. Anyway, the reason he got pulled over is there were several upset members of the public who actually called into the police to say, hey, there's this guy driving around in a Chinese police car, and he's intimidating us. And I think the reason behind this is, when you've got a Chinese community living overseas, they might start to develop ideas about actually liking democracy or liking a different way of life. They might start voicing their opinion about it. They might think about joining the Hong Kong movement. They might think about saying things derogatory about the CCP. They might just start thinking that life is different to just this one vision that's put out by the Communist Party. And by having people drive around impersonating police officers, the thing is, there are actual CCP police members and stuff, which are here anyway in America and in other countries, that just come in on tourist visas and such, and they go in and make their presence known. But driving around, at least impersonating that, gives the impression that the Chinese government is watching you, that the eyes are on you. And in Australia, they went further to make their cars look almost identical in the color and everything to normal police officers. Now this guy with the Audi in California, those are the cars that the specialty police use. So he did a like pretty much exact copy of what they look like anyway. But in Australia, because Australia belongs to China, nothing happened to the guys. What happened was, two people in I think it was Perth and Adelaide had their cars made up like this, and they were driving around where the sort of pro-Hong Kong protest things were going on, in order to intimidate the people into thinking that the CCP was there, that the Chinese police was there and watching them, and obviously to discourage this. They caught one of the guys, and he said, oh, he just did it as a joke. And of course, like I said, Australia belongs to China, nothing happened to the guy. At least here in America, this guy who was caught in California was charged with impersonating a peace officer, which is a felony, and it's a big deal. I really hope he gets the book thrown at him, because there's no way that I would ever go to some foreign country, buy a car, make it look like the police force from my country, and then drive around in an area where I know the people from my country live, pretending to be a police officer. It's just incredibly, I don't even know how to say it. I mean, the audacity that the guy must have to do that kind of thing, it's just insane. So anyway, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. The fact that not only do the scammers reach their long arms out of China all the way to countries like the US and the UK and various other places. And they do it with impunity because, remember, the language barrier, first of all, prevents people from reporting it. Like when you get a scam call and it's in Mandarin, what are you going to do? You're going to call up the local police or something and say, hey, look, I got this phone call. I don't know what they said, so I hung up. Like there's nothing you can really do, right? So the language barrier prevents proper investigation into these things. Second of all these operations are run out of China. And, you can't go into China to stop them. It's not possible. They're actually protected by the fact that China's a very opaque country, and the laws there pretty much exclude foreign rights. So you've got that problem. And then on top of that, you've got the influence from Beijing and the CCP coming here to scare the locals, keep them in line, and basically intimidate them. It's really not very nice. And because of the freedoms of expression and freedoms that you can find in the West, you will see mobs of nationalists walking around with the Chinese flag, being incredibly nationalistic and bullying anyone who doesn't believe the same as they do. But of course, you'd never be able to do that in China. You would never be able to walk in the streets in a crowd waving your country's flag and saying that China's doing something wrong or anything like that. It would be shut down immediately. You'd be disappeared. So please be aware of this, that the Chinese community are the ones who are the biggest victim here in America and in other countries too. They're dealing with a lot, all right? A lot of them are participating in it, but the innocent people, I feel for them. And I want you to know that I've got your back. I'm going to not let this go. Whenever I notice bad behavior like this police car incident or these scam phone calls, I'm going to let the world know, because it's about time this stuff stopped. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. 再见. Until next time, you know the drill. As always, stay awesome. Oh yeah, and don't forget, every single Friday you can catch another one of these SerpentZA videos where, yes, I might be ranting about something. I might be doing something to do with South Africa, China, doesn't matter. I got a lot on my plate. Wednesdays, of course, you can catch Lao 86. Also very good insight into China from a different angle. And on Mondays, we've got the most important, which is ADVChina. If you want to see our adventures around the world and traveling on motorcycles through Asia and beyond. And don't forget, every second week we actually have a podcast too, so I can't wait to see you there. Anyway, guys, Until next time, once again, you know the drill. Stay awesome.